Alright guys, looks like the lag issues from the last match were so bad that we skipped right through the commercials, and we might be going straight to our next match already, which is I guess kind of a reward for you guys kind of dealing with all that lag there in the previous matches. So we're going to go directly into Firebat versus Blue. Firebat is playing Priest, Paladin, and Mage, whereas Blue is playing Priest, Warrior, and Rogue in this particular matchup.
Yeah, just a very interesting priest deck overall. Not only does it have Death Lords, but Jeweled Scarab as well. Not typically a card you find in Dragon Priest. It's just overall we can't really tell if this is a dragon or a control priest, but it definitely looks to be leaning towards the control priest variation. Probably, I want to say like it's the worst of the two variations against Freeze Mage, because at least with the dragon variation, you sometimes have cards like Doctor Boom. You have more of a chance of getting Ysera as well, so more of a chance to kind of like pressure down the Freeze Mage. Whereas with Control Priest, like you have very few opportunities to pressure your opponent.
Yeah, definitely. With the Dragon Priest, you can get those minions on the board. That's how Dragon Priest kind of works. You compete for the board, and at least you can kind of pressure your opponent that way and hope your opponent doesn't have the greatest hand. But looking at this, could this potentially be
Whoa.
Reno Priest?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of random cards in there, and I was saying it's less likely to be Dragon Priest because there's Jeweled Scarabs and Death Lords, but now we see a Chillmaw in this deck, which is really confusing to me.
We also see a Colette Oracle in the Mage of Firebats,
Right,
and
so this is almost certainly Reno
mhm.
Freeze Mage here.
and does pick up a few of the cards that allow him to play Reno. As we see the duplicate Frostbolt in his hand, or sorry, the Frost Nova, excuse me, and but also the Frostbolt, the Icelands, the Secrets as well, pretty important, and Doomsayer, I believe. So I think Firebat's pretty close to being able to activate Reno if he ever does pick it up. As far as Blue is concerned, we do see the double duplicates. Valence chosen, so looking less likely that it is going to be the Reno Priest. And I have seen a Reno Priest in the Chinese meta. I have casted the game in the Hearthstone team story, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, what is kind of almost in the outside of the realm of possibility is this board surviving to the next turn. Double Frost Nova Doomsayer is just kind of like lethal for the priests. You really need Shadow Word Pain, or there's really no way else to deal with this.
Yeah, and even if you had Showered Pain, like you say, there's another Frost Nova Doomsayer. Looks like Blue is just gonna have to maybe draw a card here, but other than that, not much.
Right. So actually, outside of Shadow Word Pain, the other two ways, the other two most common ways I've seen of dealing with this are Velen's Chosen into, or sorry, Vol'jin into Holy Nova or Holy Smite, and the third most common way is Nightmare into Shadow Word Death. That's how desperate players usually are to deal with Doomsayers
Yeah,
as the
definitely.
priest.
So, what do you think about this play here from Blue? Doesn't draw a card. He could have cycled that Northshire Cleric, drawn a card, and still not overdrawn the next turn. Do you think there's a chance he's maybe misreading this deck as not a Reno deck and perhaps some sort of mill mage?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think it was actually honestly the correct play to go for the heal on the minion and draw a card, because the way you win this matchup is by kind of like smorking down the priest, or rather smorking down the mage, and he's definitely not looking anywhere near to accomplishing that goal. You also shouldn't be worried about milling so much because there's so many cards that draw cards for your opponent, and I believe Firebat is way ahead on cards drawn from his deck, around like 3 or 4 cards.
Yeah. I mean, uh, just to be completely honest, when I was casting Blue in his run to this point, there were a couple of subpar plays along the way. There are definitely very strong Chinese players throughout. and I don't want to like disparage players, but just giving my honest opinion as far as what I perceive the skill of these players. So without trying to be as PC as possible, but yeah, I don't think he's as strong, to be completely honest, as some of the other Chinese players that we're going to see in this tournament.
Right, that's fair. As we can see from some of his like more rash decisions, like his shredder placements, his not playing around like warrior armor, for instance. Also, just his like his leaving games so quickly, whereas I think most other players would have stayed in the games. He left on a turn 6, for example, I believe.
Yeah, left on a turn 6 and left on a separate play where he could have, tried to go for the last 4 damage on his opponent when he kind of lost control of the board, but was at least 2 turns from dying. But in any case, looking at this game, looks like Firebat might be starting to go on the offensive here. Well, okay, that's the Forgotten Torch, right? That's not the Roaring Torch?
No, that's Forgotten Torch, right?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, he just wants to kind of cycle that, I suppose. Decides to draw a card first. You can go for the Roaring Torch, or sorry, the Forgotten Torch into drawing cards just to increase your chances of getting that Roaring Torch. But I guess he doesn't want burn right now. He has plenty of burn in hand. So yeah, this is, and looking at blue side, this is looking more and more like it is going to be that Dragon Priest. Just with a kind of a weird, or not weird, but a couple interesting inclusions into the deck.
Right. Sylvanas isn't really that common these days, and Jeweled Scarab and Deathward certainly aren't common at all.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely, obviously we were looking to see if it could be sort of a Reno Priest, just because Reno Priest, if it was a Reno Priest, which I have seen, and I saw it last week in the Hearthstone Team Story, and it worked really, really well against Mage, if I remember correctly, or Freeze Mage, because you're able to heal all the way back up after they kind of burn you down. So, yeah, it was something to look out for, but as it stands, still going to be an unfavored matchup. That said, 7-8 and 6-6 is kind of hard for Mage to deal with.
Funny enough, there wasn't a Emperor Thorazine on this turn. Wonder why that was. To be fair, Firebat is kind of getting a bit low on health, and maybe he wants to be a bit more greedy with the Doomsayer into Frost Nova play, because after that he can get a free Emperor Thorazine against an empty board, in which blue pretty much is forced to use a Shadow Word Death. After he uses his first Shadow Word Death, there's much less of a possibility that he has a second one in order to deal with the Alexstrasza and Antonius that are sure to follow up.
What do you think about all the Holy Novas that Blue has been using to kind of heal himself? I feel like he's going to need that later if he wants to hold on. And maybe he was all in on having this board survive, but after this, it's looking pretty dire.
I think with how this matchup usually goes, I think it's okay for him to just focus on using Holy Novas to make sure his board survives. But on the other hand, I think it's a little suspect that he's playing the Holy Novas so quickly, so willy-nilly.
Yeah. We do see the second Collide Oracle, so maybe Blue's decision to not get himself milled was a solid one, potentially. But it's looking like the beginning of the end for Blue, particularly because... wow, it looks like he's kind of lost here. wanted to play the Whelp, but realized it wasn't buffed, and then from there just decided to go with the Northshire Cleric.
I think that's one of those scenarios where if like the yellow border wasn't around every minion that had its effect activated, he would have just played that.
Yeah, it could be the case. Firebat looks like he's just going to Pyroblast the face. He can go for an additional 11 damage here with the Frostbolt Icelands. Firebat's actually running out of cards, and I mean, he's got to have Antonius and Alexstrasza in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, they just might be two of his last 3 cards. I would estimate that he has about 3 cards left, honestly. One of them is probably like Arcane Intellect. I'm not actually even sure that Reno Jackson is in this deck, because we've seen so many duplicates. 2 Cold Light Oracles, 2 Novice Engineers. This just might be a complete cycle deck.
Wow.
Yeah, we see two Forgotten Torches in this deck, so just a lot of extra burn.
Wow, what a interesting deck. Just I guess he just wants to get to the Forgotten Torches as quickly as possible while keeping the fireballs in his deck as well. So yeah, very interesting game. Looks like Firebat's just gonna straight up take it right here with a ridiculous amount of burn. Even goes for the BM Icelands on the Northshire Cleric. That's gonna be it. 1-0 to Firebat.
Wow.
Goes up in this best of 5.
7 overkill that game or that last turn because he could have used the other torch and he wasted an Icelands there. So really one-sided match from Firebat in which like you said this probably is almost a mismatch in which Firebat is probably like the better player of the two by quite a bit.
Yeah, and especially with reasonable decks that he's piloting right here, the Priest and the Paladin, to be able to go against Blues, Priest, Warrior, and Rogue. Probably going to be able to see Firebat going for. That's a mind blast.
Right. So this is along the lines of.
Couldn't finish my statement. I had to like stop right there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, along the lines of Freeze Mage, this might be Firebat's Freeze Priest deck.
Yeah, I've seen him play it kind of as a joke on ladder, but the fact that he's bringing it right here is absolutely hilarious.
Well, I talked to him about this deck, and he actually doesn't think it's that big of a joke. He actually thinks it's like a relatively legitimate deck.
Relatively.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the Priest Mirror seems to be like the exact matchup that you want. Again, like any freeze decks which go into a huge combo probably will do really good against Priest, a really defensive deck. And yet another really strange card for blue in this dragon deck, a Light of the Naru, which is again typically only reserved for control priest archetypes.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of hard to see how he fits in all these cards and is able to use his dragons as well. I guess the Blackwing Technician potentially he does have the Chillman in hand to kind of buff that up. I would imagine that would be the pickup here, other than Shadow Form, which I mean I don't know if it really synergizes with this deck too well. So yeah.
Firebat will probably be happy if blue chooses Shadow Form here.
Yeah, I'd probably be pretty happy about that. He looks like he's.
Oh my God, he's gonna do it.
Wow. Firebat's yeah, I mean this deck is all about that damage, so
I
speaking
don't
of
think
Firebats, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think blue is really familiar with Firebat. Typically likes to run for priest, or rather his stream. This could be just a grave error.
This is one of the most interesting things. Goes for the Farseer.
No, I can see that. If I guess it's a heal card, it synergizes with Northshire Cleric. Back when there weren't as many good priest cards in priest, Farseer was actually just used to control priest because it could heal. It could synergize with Akanai Soul Priest. It could synergize with Northshire Cleric. Overall, a decent card.
Very true. I doubt he has any sort of Akanais in his deck though. So, in any case, we are going to see a Light Bomb to kind of get rid of that. Firebat's unable to kind of put anything on the board to continue that pressure anyway, so he's not going to be too sad about that. Though he could have healed the other minion, the other Pyromancer, to kind of get out of range, I believe. So, yeah, maybe he's regretting that at this point. Does play the Thorson to kind of keep the pressure up. Discounts those Holy Fires, which doesn't... I don't know if that matters in the grand scheme of things. You know what kind of combo pieces he has in here?
Probably Villain and then 2 Mind Blasts. I think the Holy Fires are a combination of for survivability and to get some chip damage in against some classes that don't have reliable healing.
Right.
But you know what? If Firebat can keep this Emperor alive for a few more turns, this Holy Fire could actually be part of this combo.
It absolutely
wow.
could. And
Value Holy Fire.
absolutely value. Well, he gets to draw another card, which is pretty good. Gets to discount something else with his Thorson, and there you go. Holy Nova discounted. Now you can use Holy Nova and Holy Fire on the same turn, Monk. Everything you've always dreamed of.
That is my dream of being that holy. You know, that's why my name is Monk, of course.
Obviously. All right, so it looks like we're probably going to see a steal onto this North Star Cleric.
This is a bit surprising since he'll leave this Emperor Thorzain up for yet another turn.
The dream, right? The dream, as Firebat likes to say on his stream. um, yeah, he's going to be getting 0 mana Shadow Word Death as well pretty soon. I mean, is there a way to kill that, by the way? Oh, with the Holy Nova, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's basically it. He can play the
again,
Chillmon as well, but then that kind of, prohibits him from buffing the rest of the dragons in his hand potentially. So it looks like it is going to be that steal and just going to hit face. And
I honestly don't think Blue knows what he's facing.
well, I mean, has there been much to kind of indicate that is that crazy?
Well, here's the thing. Oh, wow, that's pretty huge as
Yeah.
well.
He's just going to be able to clear this board without even using Light Bomb.
Yeah, he's not going to be too afraid of a Cabal Shadow Priest either. The thing is here, like, I bet Blue, because he's not familiar with this deck, he's probably thinking, okay, he's just Priest. Honestly, like, I don't care if my opponent gets Emperored spells or Emperored minions with Priest. He can't really do any burst damage, and I always have things like Light Bomb to get back the board. So Blue might be thinking he's in an actually okay situation, which I probably would disagree with. Also, another strange turn. He could have just healed this turn. Instead, he plays a minion that's vulnerable to Cabal Shadow Priest.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of playing a little bit too quickly is Blue, and Firebat's gonna go ahead and Alex shots to the face, which will get countered by this Big Game Hunter. This game is just really weird, to be honest.
Yeah, Big Game Hunter and Priest. That's also one I haven't seen before, to be honest.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, this game has actually gone pretty back and forth. Firebat had the board, then was taken over by Blue, then, Firebat cleared it himself, and then now back in the Blue, but now we have, what's that card again?
Excavated Evil.
Excavated Evil, so able to use that to clear his opponent's board. One more option for the Freeze Priest, as he likes to call it, to clear the board, and it goes in the hand of Blue, which he can maybe use later, but for now he's able to clear the board with that. Pretty useful right here.
Blue's he's gonna play the Chillmon, hope Firebat doesn't really have an answer for it, but
Is that
those
lethal?
0 mana Shadow Word Deaths are pretty threatening.
Is that lethal? No, it's 3 off lethal.
Yeah,
Um,
just a bit off.
so I'm gonna just draw one card off of this. Oh wait, he's not.
Well,
gonna draw...
he's not gonna draw any cards.
Oh wow, yeah, it's just not gonna go off. Okay,
That's
interesting.
actually pretty bad for Firebat because it'll just get Cabal Shadow Priested.
Yeah, he's not feeling too happy about that. He actually wanted to draw the card, I believe.
Yeah, but I think it's okay. Firebat's okay with it because that's actually a pretty huge draw as well. I was gonna say Firebat's okay with it because even if his opponent Cabal Shadow Priest, then that just means Firebat has lethal. There's probably no way to deal with everything here unless he draws exactly Shadow Word Death.
So the Excavated Evil draws an Excavated Evil for Firebat and puts an Excavated Evil in his deck.
Yep.
Interesting. Gonna just play the Excavated Evil just to put in his opponent's deck, just to make it more likely that he draws a poor card. Firebat has nothing to do there, so it kind of makes sense. But Blue's just gonna keep healing up, and is he gonna commit to the Cabal Shadow Priest?
Is there a world where Blue just heals up for 15 turns, or rather for 7 turns, and goes back to full health?
Maybe, I don't. I don't know. I mean, Firebat has to draw a minion obviously sometime soon, or some sort of burn. He does have 10 damage in hand, so if he can draw maybe the extra 7, it could be something. Looks like Blue's playing pretty greedy, wanting to steal something. Definitely steal something with the Cabal Shadow Priest. But yeah, Firebat just running out of answers. Or sorry, not answers, but running out of ways to deal that last part of the damage.
Yeah, and not only that, but he's running. He doesn't have he doesn't have Emperor Thorzain anymore, So the discounted spells in his hand probably won't be that good with Velen, Prophet Velen. Like he can basically only do Velen, Mind Blast, Holy Smite on a single turn, and that's just not. That's only 14 damage of burst.
Well, there's the
Oh.
Valen, so I mean he can go with the 14 now, and there is no death for this, so is that just game?
Well, it no. Let's if blue draws death here, nope.
Valen's into Holy Nova for 3. He actually is 1 damage off being able to clear that. I mean, this is kind of the reason why you sometimes just want to play minions, right? Like the Cabal Shadow Priest, just because sometimes you need to have that minion-to-minion combat, or else you're not going to be able to clear something like this Valence. And so, yeah, Blue's in trouble, and I don't think he can get out of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way if there's any way for him to draw a card, but I'm not really seeing it. He, yeah, you have to Holy Nova and heal the Velen chosen. Sorry, the Prophet Velen.
Yeah. But if he doesn't draw
Yeah.
anything, he's just dead on board. So
Yeah,
that was one of the weirdest games, one of the strangest ways that it's ended too. Firebat not getting the burst damage to kill his opponent, just having the valence that his opponent could not deal with. Blue looks dejected, uninterested, not really sure.
yeah, he didn't actually seem that surprised when Velen actually hit the field. I was watching his face pretty closely. There's really no indication of, oh my god, I can't believe he's playing this deck. I've never seen it before. I don't know if that's whether he's actually just he expected this or whether he just doesn't care as much, honestly.
Yeah, it's always kind of disheartening to see when someone doesn't really get too up for a match. Even, I mean, Firebat's played on the biggest stage, played in the World Championships, played in, DreamHack, just tournaments all over the world, and I feel like he's putting in more effort than Blue here. What do you think?
Yeah. Probably quite a bit. Usually it's the open players that put in more effort because the more popular players, the invited players generally have more tournaments, but it definitely seems like Firebat probably has prepared for this tournament slightly better. I just want to mention that we saw Keeper of Ultimon in the Secret Paladin, and I think this is going to be kind of a new type of Secret Paladin has been hitting the ladder recently. It's going to be the egg version of Secret Paladin, which just means it runs egg as a 2-drop, and in order to activate it, it uses Keeper of Ultimon, it uses Defender of Argus, it uses Avenge, which can be pretty threatening because if you can activate an egg consistently, that's just huge value for your deck.
Yeah, definitely. So, wait, have you seen the egg version of Secret Paladin? I've seen the egg version of Midrange Paladin.
Yeah, I've seen the egg version of Secret Paladin as well.
Huh. So that's pretty interesting. In any case, we will see if that's going to be the case for this match. Looks like Firebat took a chance. His opponent wanted to play a 4-drop, but Blue deciding to go heal his guy instead of playing his Twilight Guardian, which would not have gotten buffed anyway, so I guess that's fine.
Now,
Firebat... Sorry,
isn't this just like the worst hand you've ever seen
from whom?
from Firebat? I mean,
Yeah, I guess it's
before
pretty
he
bad, but he has a mysterious
before
challenge
he
with it, so...
yeah before he drew the Pilot Shredder, it was pretty bad.
That's true. But, Dr. Six will, right all wrongs. So, he's, in that perspective, he's kind of okay.
Yeah, he's not even gonna get a noble sack from it though, since he has both in the hand.
Yeah, it always feels bad when you have double secrets like that in the hand and aren't able to pick up one. Obviously, you want to just cycle those through. He also has a Divine Favor, as we can see. I guess that's part of the Firebat's reasoning to attack the Wormers agent earlier, too, because maybe he's just kind of baiting his opponent to drawing too many cards, and, he can get that Divine Favor in the future.
Yeah, exactly. For Blue, obviously, he's going to play this Twilight Guardian. He's just thinking about whether he wants to attack in and heal for 3. I don't blame him for doing this. I think this is probably correct. You want as many minions on the field when Firebat's going into his turn 5 play with the coin. just so he can proc those potential Nova sacrifices.
Looks like Blue's going to give up his no sorry cleric right here just to be able to clear the first part of that shredder.
He's playing around Divine Favor. Props to him.
Yep. Even though Firebat has a ton of cards already. So Dr. Six comes out. There were a couple other options that Firebat could have gone there, but it's pretty big to get this guy out just because you want to thin your deck. The worst feeling in the world is when you go for a different option than Mysterious Challenger, and then the next card you draw is a secret, and you're like, that could have been something different. But yeah, gonna go with the most powerful play. I'll kind of similar to how one would play Doctor Boom. But not going to be too good for him here. Blue is going to be able to just death this guy away and retain board control.
No, not really many options for Firebat to get board control back. When you have Divine Favor in your deck, and when you have Divine Favor, it basically means you probably don't have a quality in this deck. So a quality probably was the best thing you could have gotten.
Yeah, looking worse and worse for Firebat in this particular game. And obviously Firebat is in a good position overall in this series, being up 2-0. Even if he loses this game, he's likely to take this series. But it should be said that every game matters, and when we go to tie breaks, every game that one person has accumulated will matter as far as determining who moves on.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Firebat, he's 2 matches up, so games actually don't matter unless he loses here.
Yeah.
And even if he loses, I believe he has pretty good tiebreaker. So he went 3-1, 3-2, and even if he loses 2-3, he has a positive tiebreaker, which probably puts him enough to advance.
Yeah, definitely. The bigger thing, obviously, is Blue's chances of moving on, especially he's at that kind of critical 1-1 right now. In any case, Blue, with an interesting decision, he can hit for 7 right now if he wants to, which is reasonable because he clears off this ship's cannon as well. So, yeah, pretty. I mean, you know, whenever you get a chance to hit your opponent for 7, sometimes you just do it, right?
Yeah, whenever you set up lethal, you just do it as well.
And this puts Firebat in a really crappy spot. He has to consecrate because unless Blue has an aneurysm, he's not going to attack with the Light Warden first if there's a noble sacrifice. So yeah, Firebat basically has to consecrate, and from there he only has 3 mana, which kind of sucks.
Nope, enough for another noble sacrifice.
Yep, could be the case. That and Haunted Creeper is okay, but yeah, no matter how you look at it, it just looks really bad. It looks like he realizes he's not going to win with his hand. He's just going to draw. So,
by the way, I feel like there's something we need to comment on here, there's a Thought Steal in this Dragon Priest. There's 2 Jeweled Scarabs in this Dragon Priest.
Right.
What the heck is going on here?
Does he have 50 cards in this deck? Like, what is happening? Oh my goodness.
he actually does have 50 cards because Jeweled Scarab gives you 2 more, Thought Steal gives you 2 more.
Eventually get to all those cards, right? That's the saddest repentance in the world. And yeah, just goes ahead and plays the Dark Cultist. Looking really bad for Firebat. Has 0 answers in his hand right now, just all questions essentially. And looks like he's probably going to concede, haunting this board state. Unless, what is he reaching for? Oh, Knife Juggler. Okay,
Knife Juggler.
Maybe some crazy knives.
How crazy could it get, actually?
I think he has to swing in first, doesn't he? Or maybe not. I guess with the Noble Sacrifice, like something crazy could happen. But yeah, Firebat playing this out to the bitter end, making sure he doesn't miss a potential miracle comeback.
Yeah, you have to respect it. He's not giving up. He's not
Blue.
down this hell.
Not giving up like a certain opponent.
Yeah, right.
But looking pretty bad. No lethal here for Blue yet. He could just play Ysera and just try to find something. Ooh. Firebat really wanted that knife on the Dark Cultist there. None of these guys gives blue lethal. He picks up to death just in case because he has a handful of minions. Probably just Dr. Boom here, right? Yeah, just gonna play Dr. Boom. Really almost no way to deal with this.
Yeah, also there's a chance for Firebat to just kill himself on the next turn.
Yep. Alright, so that's gonna spell the end, I believe, at least for this game.
So is there any world in which because he drew the cog hammer, he now has a chance if he clears this board. Or
That-
mostly clears the board.
Yeah, that's true. I guess Cockhammer is a thing right now.
Unfortunately, we know from our perspective that unless he cog hammers one of the bigger minions, or unless he cog hammers exactly Knife Juggler, he's dead.
Yeah.
Shadow Word Death
Yeah, exactly.
kills him.
Yeah, Cabal or Shadow Word Death.
Cabal, yeah, exactly. It's just that the key 3 or 4 health.
104. Nope.
Nope.
So from his perspective, he's still alive. Well, he probably knows there's a good chance he's dead, but yeah. That's going to be it. Yep. Blue takes the game off of Firebat, and that's going to be 2-1 in Firebat's favor. And that leaves actually the Warrior and the Rogue for Blue. So actually not out of the water quite yet. Both of those decks quite capable of defeating Secret Paladin.
Yeah, it just really depends on how they're teched, I guess. Cards like Unstable Ghoul in Control Warrior is something that I'm somewhat fond of. And it's going to be...
Ooh.
Oh,
It's a Death Rattle
this is going to
Rogue.
be... This is going to be Raptor Rogue, and it's really interesting that we see both Deadly Poison and Blade Flare in it. A lot of people have been experimenting a lot with a lot of different variations of Raptor Rogue, and the ones that are most popular and most effective, at least on the NA server, are ones that cut almost every Rogue spell. So they don't have Deadly Poison, so they don't have Blade Flurry, and instead they're more minion focused. They're more focused on the overall synergy between the minions in the deck, and less focused on just the generically okay cards in Rogue. They still have the OP cards like Backstab, like Eviscerate, and sometimes like the meta cards like Fan of Knives to clear off Secret Paladin. But they cut the cards like Deadly Poison, the cards like Blade Flurry that don't necessarily work into the general idea of Raptor Rogue.
What about Backstab?
Oh, Backstab is just too amazing to cut, I feel. It also helps you get board control, so that's not a card that people cut either. It's usually, what I see is there's only 10 cards that are usually put in almost every variation of Raptor Rogue, and those are Backstab, Eviscerate, the Raptor, the SI Agent, and Fan of Knives. So 2 copies of each of those. And everything else is kind of just do whatever you want with those. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so I was going to say that, I mean, Oil Rogue is good against Secret Paladin because of all the answers that it has. But in particular, Rogue, just as a class, has a lot of answers versus Paladin in general. Obviously, as long as you don't take too much damage, the Rogue hero power kind of counters it, just because you kind of get a 2-for-1 in that sense, as far as mana is concerned. And, you know, things like the Noble Sacrifice can get procced pretty easily by Rogue as well. If Blue decides to go for a hero power here, this Knife Juggle will be very huge. See if it goes to the face or hits the Loot Hoarder. Alternatively, he could play this this egg and then allow himself to copy that next turn with the Raptor.
Yeah, it's such a strong play. Although, if this juggler somehow survives with like a redemption,
Yeah.
Well, then it won't get copied because the owl will come into play, and that'll be just huge because there's really no way for Blue to get back on board. He doesn't really want to play the Raptor just as a vanilla 3/4.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the problems with Raptor, right? If you can't copy anything early on, either you just play a Tempo Raptor for 3/4, which kind of feels bad, or you wait, which is really bad for Tempo as well. So we'll see what he goes with. Looks like he's just going to play out the 3-4, which obviously does contest the board. However, he just gets Repentance, which is pretty good here. You typically don't get a good Repentance on turn 3, but working out for Firebat right now.
Yeah. Oh man.
Wow, even gets the Cog Hammer. So I
That's
guess the
just
Cog
amazing.
Hammer, which is pretty good. Sorry to cut you off there. But
I don't think it's pretty good. I think it's almost game winning here considering Blue's hand.
yeah, it's really good. Wow, that's a big draw though. But the problem is that Blue has a pretty quality hand, whereas Firebat doesn't. You know, he's gonna be top decking here. Oh, but he can top deck Palashur as well. It seems like.
Yeah, he can top deck with the best of them.
All right, so Firebat maintaining that lead, and it's gonna be just basically the tempo that Firebat gains, which is how Secret Paladin generally wins. That backside was huge though.
Yeah. It seems like just a quintessential Hearthstone match. Players are top decking against each other all the time.
Second Cog Hammer is actually decent, so you might just see him kind of just play that out. Looks like oh yeah, he's just gonna just use the Cog Hammer to get the Divine Shield on this Shredder to get a really good trade. Makes sense, and continue to have tempo. And every time Firebat top decks something not horrible is really good for him because he's getting closer and closer to being able to play that Tyrion, which is obviously huge.
Yeah, he basically only needs to quote unquote top deck once more. And by top deck I mean he needs any like decent minion. I think he'd be even happy with shielded mini bot, for instance.
Wow, really just a quick flurry there. Although, in fairness, Firebat has only 2 cards in hand, so kind of makes sense in that regard. And yeah, well, that's a pretty good top deck.
That's a little better than shielded mini bot.
Arguably the best. It's close to Dr. Boom. Which one would you rather? I guess you'd rather see this one, right? Just to thin out your deck.
Right. Yeah, so maybe just even the best one.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty good top deck. Firebat pretty good this game. And if you're Firebat, are you scared of this Drake? I mean, you've seen a bunch of death rattles, so maybe you just are. Maybe you just hit face here.
No, you're not. You're playing Raptor Rogue. You're not playing Oil Rogue. So I don't think there's any way you're afraid of this Drake.
And there's the concede. They actually had the banner ready on the bottom for Blue's fast concede. There, they had it ready right when
they learned.
All right, so there you go. Firebat wins the group. Very impressively, 3-1 against 0, 3-2 against Life Coach, and 3-1 against Blue. That puts him, what would that be, 9-4 on the day, so +5. Obviously, it's a bit meaningless because, he just dominated as far as series score. So yeah, congratulations to him. He moves on to the final round. Alright guys, we're gonna just mute the sound right there. You can continue to watch the highlights, but we have Firebat on hand here for an interview. We actually don't need the webcams, so that's fine. But Firebat, you with us?
Yeah, what's up?
Not much. We just saw you basically kick butt in the group, 3-0, easy peasy, right?
There's some rough spots. My heart was racing against Life Coach a little bit there.
Yeah, that was a pretty close match, obviously. So I guess the first thing that's probably on my mind, and maybe on your mind as well, as far as how this match went, was what do you think about using all 9 classes in this sort of format?
I really liked it a lot. I got to play some fun stuff. I got to bring Mill Rogue, and I felt comfortable with it because it actually has well-rounded matchups against a lot of the slower classes. I feel like it's actually a strong deck in this format. And then I got to do weird things, I cut Alexstrasza and Antonitis from my Freeze Mage, played
Yeah.
Cold Light Oracles with double torches, so I could just draw lots of burn on people. Yeah. So I was able to just play a lot of different stuff because the field is so much wider, and it just makes a lot more things playable and viable that you don't normally see, like Freeze Priest too.
Yeah, that was actually so insane watching that Freeze Priest. I guess starting off the day, what did you think of when your Mill Rogue, one of the, I guess, sort of out there decks that you brought, immediately went against Druid? Did you like your chances right away?
I don't really like the matchup against Druid, but one of the things they have to know how to play the matchup, and he didn't seem very familiar with it. He threw away double combo, which is because he used both innervates which you're never supposed to do. You're supposed to just try and line up double combo because I can't heal past 30. So if you hit me for 22 and you can just threaten that all the time, then if he ever has a minion on the board, he wins. And he's probably runs Loatheb in his deck. So if he plays Loatheb and then double combos me, I die every time, and I give him all of his cards. So all he's got to do is set that up, and I am dead 100% of the time. But he didn't seem very familiar with the matchup, so he didn't set that up, and I was able to take the win. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, really smart of you. We thought to basically mill his combo pieces and not focus on basically killing his minions on the board when you used your your advantage there. Any questions for you, Monk, from you for Firebat, Monk?
Yeah. Yeah, what specifically do you think makes a lot of the weird decks viable in this format? Is it just like people are not running like the most optimal decks, like not everyone's running Secret Paladin, or is it something else?
I mean, most people were running Secret Paladin still, but it's just like,
I mean, not in every match, for instance.
yeah, yeah. There's just the presence of all the other classes, so you're expecting to see a wider variety of stuff, and like people aren't inclined to bring too many super polarized things like freeze mage standard, for example, and stuff like that, because like targeting those with weaker decks is like a pretty obvious strategy of ways to sneak out wins with weaker decks. So I feel like everyone's bringing more well-rounded stuff, and equal representation of the classes means there's weaker classes that you could prey off of, and just certain classes are better against other classes, and sometimes when you only see the 4 same classes over and over again, you have to bring the certain counters, but now there's all 9, so it opens up a lot more possibilities.
Yeah. Did you have any particular strategies that about like pairing classes with certain other classes? Like, did you want to like support each other with like one strategy, like anti-aggro in one lineup and anti-control in the other, or is it more like filling up each deck's weaknesses?
I always try and target in Conquest. Like, I never try and like make a well-rounded lineup. I always want to be able to pick 2 decks that I feel like people will likely pair together, and then make sure all of my decks do well against that. So, for example, with like my Shaman, Patron, Hunter lineup, I tried to make sure that they would be both good against Druid and Paladin, because a lot of people like running Druid and Paladin in the same lineup together. And so all 3 of those both just have like 70+% win rate against those 2 classes.
All right, so we're probably going to get to our next match pretty soon. You kind of have to go. Before you go, any shout-outs, and who do you think is going to be the second place person between Life Coach, Blue, and Zoro? I'm not sure if you know what happens already, but we don't. And Life Coach, I believe, is 1-1, Blue is 1-2, and Zoro is 0-2. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
who do you think is going to take it? We have Zoro and Life Coach remaining.
I think the odds are in Life Coach's favor.
All right.
So, just like looking at the scoreboard right now, obviously he's got a score lead. But yeah, Life Coach is a really solid player. I'd like to see him win because he's also one of the international pros. And we got to take down China. So go us.
All right. Any shout-outs before you go?
Shout out to Team Archon and my grandparents. I'm staying at their place.
Ooh. All right.
So,
Awesome.
there we
Thanks for
go.
the interview, and good luck in the final tournament of this event.
Thanks.